this evening, for the first time, I'm going to try and summarize some of the things in the book, particularly with a view to making you happier, if that's possible. One thing we'll be discovering is that even though at school they didn't tell you wandering was okay, I'm going to suggest it is okay, and not only okay, it's essential, and it's also probably a key to happiness. Would that be interesting? Wow. I've had a bit of a wandery life so far. Mr. Pateman was my careers officer. Do you know Mr. Pateman, wispy beard, maths teacher? He talked about careers as though they were these straight things that you follow. You want a career. You're a serious person. You have a career. It goes ahead. Anyone, is it been that way for you? The word career, when you look it up as a verb, means to crash in an uncontrolled manner down the side of a mountain. And that's basically how a lot of it's felt. Turn to the person next to you and admire their hair. Go on. Look at their lovely hair. Go on. Okay, enough. One of you be A, one of you be B. A tells B how you got from school to this seat using the word then. So I was born, then I went to school, then we moved to Datchet, and then we came into London, then I became the president of the Happiness Society, and here I am. Okay? 36 seconds. How have you got from school to here using the word then? Go. Thank you. That's excellent. You are the best group I have worked with this evening for 6B. And by the way, if you are concerned you haven't got the story told, believe me, they're not interested. They're just not that interested. But there we did it. We did half the exercise. Now we do the same thing again. A still tells B how you got from school to that seat, but we changed the words. The words are, instead of then, they're but then, so then. I was born in Chigwell, but my parents decided that we'd have better educational possibilities in London, so we moved to London, where I was a student. But it turned out I had quite a good voice, so my teacher took me to Covent Garden, and so on and so forth. You don't have to use that story, that's my story. So, 35 seconds, 36 seconds, go! Okay, very good. God, it seems so high, I might sit here. What was different, the first and the second one? Which did we like more? Both, good, very even-handed, excellent. They're both good, but what was different about the second one? More colour, yeah, exactly, what else? More detail, more concept, excuse me? More plot twists, how brilliant. And what is the word that does that makes the plot twist? But, and what does but mean? What does but mean? Not a but, that's different, yellow corner. When you say but this happened, what are you letting the person know? That life was challenging, unpredictable, didn't go to plan. That's all it's saying. It said things didn't go to plan, but, yeah? They didn't tell you that at school, but humans' lives don't go to plan. And there was a time when our grandparents' time, when you'd hide that fact because it meant you weren't professional if things didn't go to plan. Now, in the world we're living in now, I think only liars say everything's going to plan. The book comes from a charity that Mark kindly pointed out I run, but like who knew? My life, so I was heading off into the opera world, but then I did some stuff on the telly, but then McKinsey, who's a small business out there, management consultancy, saw me on the telly a while ago, and they said, "Oh, I wonder if he could help us use, the arts to think differently about life." And 20-something years later on, most of my work I do in organizations, counseling, creativity, all over the place, doing different things. Doesn't matter. But one of the things that came out of that was I would often take executives out of their buildings into the street. Why? Because they could leave their identity a little bit behind there. They're out the street and no one gives a damn if they're a chief operating officer, whatever that is. I remember one time, there was this very serious guy, and they were thinking about him being a CEO. He was only a COO, right? He was a CEO, he was an engineer. But the problem was he didn't seem to be interested in people, didn't seem to like people. So they said, would I work with him? And I asked him, do you like people? He said, no, I don't like people. So great. This is good. So we went out in the street and we found a cafe, and this was an amazing day, for me anyway. There we were. And I thought, not interested in people, but there's a person over there. Maybe we could get him curious. So I said to him, see that guy over there? Draw a picture of that person, that man, over there on the other side of the cafe. And he said, I don't draw. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I don't draw. I said, well, you're going to draw. You're paying for the session, and that's what's happening. You're drawing. He said, but I can't draw well. I said, I didn't say draw well. I just said draw. And he was like, oh, my God. He sit and do this thing, flaying his ego as he did this. I said, great. He'd just say, yeah, it's fine. He's, I said, now, part 2, walk over there and give it to him as a gift. And he looked at me like, you can't be serious. I said, and it was like the walk of death. He would have rather cycled up Kilimanjaro than do this walk. But he did it. I bet he remembers it. And it made me think, for all the money and all the elaborate stuff that people do in businesses and elsewhere, in terms of, self-development, what about the street? What about just the public realm? So I began to do things, take more and more people out into the street. And bit by bit, this charity, it's a free workshop, I called it. See what I did there? It's a workshop where you walk. Basically, it's got 3 bits. You tune up your senses, you ask a question, go for a wander, and then you share what happened. That's a 3-hour process, and it's gone bananas. It's in 42 countries around the world. It's been going since 2013, and we've done over 700 events, and no money has changed hands, not anywhere, because it's run by volunteers all over the world. Who knew? Who knew that lovely people like to do stuff and transactionalism isn't important? Amazing. Things are getting better and better and worse, faster and faster. And when I say that, and I've asked people around the world, a lot of people go, yeah. It's not negative, it's not positive, it's both. This is funny, and the oscillation between really good and really bad is faster and faster. That's the world we're living in. That's the world we seek happiness in. Why is being up such a good thing? I'm down, but now I'm up. And it's interesting, if a dolphin spent the whole time above the waves, it would perish. If it spent all the time beneath the waves, it would perish. But there's something about that kind of the lovely oscillation that is us. Wandering is if not the key to happiness, but it's certainly part of it. Do you know how the Chinese talk about crossing a river you don't know? The Brits come along and with a troglodyte and a ruler, and they build a bridge. The Chinese used to say, and again, how does one know? You just look on the internet, and it says the Chinese do, and so you accept it. But anyway, I'm saying that, and anyone wants to argue, we'll do it afterwards. The Chinese say the following, which is you cross a river by feeling your way over the stones. Shoes off, put your foot in the river, and you feel your way through the unknown. You feel it by trial and error. You feel it. Were we told that at school? No. You were told to start studying and do the exam, and then everything will be well. Early on in your school career, almost as the beginning of it, they give you a stationery set. They give you a ruler and those things to stab into the person next to you, and they never knew what they were for. But this thing is really interesting. It occurred to me that it's called a ruler. It's the same name as the king, this little thing. And there's something about it that says, okay, leave behind the wobbly world of your youth, come to us, and we're going to straighten things out for you, yes? We're going to, I was rapped over the knuckles if I didn't draw in straight lines, on ruled lines. We have to get a bit of order into your mind, yeah? When you think about it, the words they use for straight, and I'm not talking about in agenda terms, although that's also true, right, correct, straight, straightforward. These words are all to do with straight lines, as opposed to, so look, what chance do we have of wandering? We're told we must not do it, yes? But there are other reasons, as we'll see, that we self-censor, we stop ourselves wandering. Here's an exercise, and it seems super simple, and please, try it. When you're out and about, identify a walk that will take you 5 minutes, somewhere that is 5 minutes away, and take 15 minutes to get there. Just do that. Just take longer than is needed. We talked to Google a while back and said, instead of doing the most direct route, can't you just ask people how long they've got and then do like a wiggly-woggly route? Why does it always have to be the straightest route? It's hardwired into us to walk straight, which is interesting when people come to do street wisdom, which requires at least an hour of wandering. I remember saying it to a Korean woman in a bank, and she said, what are my instructions? I said, Can't. I said, we're going to do some tune-ups. Okay, I've done them. I'm tuned up. Good, fine. Now what you do is, I said, you've got an hour to wander. Where? I said, well, that's the point. You wander, wander. It's your time. And she literally yelped. She yelped. She said, this has not happened to me in my career. We were doing some work with another company, and a girl just broke down. She stood up, and she broke down into tears after Street Wisdom and said, I realized I've never been for a walk. And she doesn't mean she's never been for a walk, but she's never dawdled. She's never wandered. She's never meandered. What is one of the most interesting things about Street Wisdom, about the wandering, the craft of wandering, is that it seems to increase the incidence of serendipity, of synchronicity. And I just want to encourage wandering and welcome synchronicity. We all know the word synchronicity, yes, it's Jung coined it, I think. The idea of when two things happen and your brain can't figure out acausal relationships, yeah? And some people like bang into them. Everything's synchronous, and some people like my dad, he could meet his twin in the street and go, oh, no, that's just a coincidence. Whatever it is, he doesn't have a twin, so it would be pretty magical. But anyway, he's also dead, so that would be even more magical. There's probably a range in this room, or there's a pretty hippie room, so I think you're probably up towards the synchronicity exists thing. But even if it doesn't, here are some of the things I've noticed in the 6-7 years Street Wisdom's going on that encourage synchronicity into your life. The first is to imagine. When you're walking down the street, most people are imagining anyway. They're daydreaming. They're plugged in. They're not looking. They're thinking. Yeah? But with this imagining, as soon as you start imagining, we've got the incredible ability to imagine which we're not using. Remember, as a kid, you used to be able to say, "I'm in the sea now, and now I'm in the moon. I'm on the moon." No, you're a Viking. That's still going on. We're just not using it. Yeah? Break the code. And people go, oh. And if you look at the road like you're a code breaker, what's the code here? What it does is it excites the pattern-making part of your mind, and suddenly things that were not connected before start to connect and create meaning. Third thing I've seen people do is play. When you play with the street, it plays back. I know for many people, by the way, you don't need to Pollyanna, the street for many people is a place of fear and pain and oppression. I've got that. But we take Street Wisdom into very dangerous places sometimes. We've been in the West Bank, and we've been in some very rough parts of Australia and stuff like that, and everything's worked okay. I think when you're playful with the environment, it plays back. The world's constantly flirting with us. Often literally at the edge of our awareness, there's little things that they're waving to us, calling to us. Jung calls it's your future self seeking to manifest. It's like waving from the future, going, I'm here. You're here. I often practice, because I like to have beginner's mind about Street Wisdom. I invented it, but I really don't know. So I'm always practicing. And one of the things we do is we walk really slowly, and I mean ludicrously slowly. Just slow right down. Especially in a busy public place. Try it. It's not an exercise in body control. It's an exercise in ego control and combusting social norms. It's amazing. It's really amazing. But I'm walking along going, holy shit, I look like an idiot. I've been doing this for years. And I'm walking down Neal's Street. You know Neal Street? And there's a busker with the didgeridoo, and he's just come back from Burning Man or whatever it is. Now, I'm a musician, and I'm kind of reasonably progressive. But it's like, normally I'm walking right past that guy. He's like doing his mad act, and he's doing the didgeridoo. But I'm walking really slowly. That's all I'm doing. I walk really slowly. I mean, very slowly. He catches sight of me. And he stops what he's doing. And he starts walking at the same speed towards me. It's like, hello. So we're walking slowly. That's all we're doing. And as we walk, our arms open up. I didn't have this face on, by the way. And we hug without saying anything. No, nothing. And then we unhug, and we step away. When without saying anything else, we both go on our way. I found that quite extraordinary, because it would have been so easy just, hi man, how's it? But it wasn't that. It was something about synchrony. When you're at the same speed as somebody else, you go at their speed. when you slow down, who notices you on a street? Rough sleepers and the police. Because they are going at a different speed. But they're and also retailers. They're scanning. So it's interesting, just change your tempo, join a different world. Jim Garrison said an amazing thing. And I have no idea where it is in my book. But read the book, and it's very, very good. Good. But he's basically talking about the fact that, we were brought up to think that we're just a random chemical experiment. Nothing means anything. We're just happenstance. And then he goes into explaining how infinitesimally unlikely that is. Despite the fact you were told, no, nothing connects to anything. It's all just chance. As soon as you start to recognize it's connected, synchronicity is happening all the time. By definition, everything's connected. And you can live in a very different, much more sort of magical place. The subtitle of this book, by the way, is Find Wonder in the Everyday, Every Day. That's sort of what I think is happening with Street Wisdom. Certainly my experience of it is that there is wonder to be had in Theobald's Road. You don't have to go to Machu Picchu. It's right here, right now, if you know how to look. Gaudi said, the straight line belongs to man, the curve belongs to God. So basically, it's a wiggly-woggly place that we're living in. And what I would suggest, one of the things that may not increase happiness, but it may reduce suffering, is let go of the idea that going in a straight line, when the world goes wiggly, going in a straight line is a really bad idea. Anyone fly? I mean, you flow in anyone fly a plane? Fly a plane. I've scary thought that I can fly a plane. Not well, but I can fly. I have a license to fly a plane. And I'm an artist. But I learned what the dials meant. And I learned that there's wind, right? So if you head that way and the wind is going this way and you carry on the same way, you don't end up where you thought you were going to be because there's no roads in the sky. You knew that, right? It's a wobbly thing. I think down here, the winds are blowing, the currents of our lives are blowing. Just open as I mistakenly did at 4 o'clock this morning to see the news, and there's a whole new tornado of news. So, let go of whoever told you that we need to go in straight lines, and let's wander a bit. In terms of why wandering, I think, links to increased happiness. One thing I've noticed, when you start to wander, and your path isn't this, saber thrust through the crowd, you fall into conversation as we would have done in previous generations. You find yourself conversing. But there's this notion, isn't there? And maybe it's just the Brits. I mean, certainly there are cultures that are friendlier than others. But we do have this kind of, I couldn't possibly, What's very interesting on Street Wisdom is if you walk up to strangers and say, I've got a question about... My wife, just opposite here, we were doing something with Sunday Assembly, and it was raining, and she wanted to show my son that you can talk to strangers, but it was raining. It was London, it was raining, it was Sunday. And her question on Street Wisdom was, how can I raise more money for the kids' school? Okay? So she said, come on, Zach, and there's this two people sheltering their cagoules from the sheeting rain. She went up to them, she said, I've got this question, I wonder, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to know, how can I raise more money for the school? He was a school governor, she was a fundraiser. I cannot tell you the number of times you ask exactly the right person. And sometimes it's not the right person in the sense of someone you'd expect. But again, there's loads of examples in the book. In other words, answers are everywhere, but so are teachers. I was on a bus many years ago, but while I was beginning to think about Street Wisdom, and I was on a bus, and I'm tall, as you've noticed, and I was on the top of a bus, and it was rush hour, and it was smelly, and it was nasty. It was November. We were traffic jammed, and there were dogs, and there were children, sticky children, there were smelly people, there were too many people. I was irritated. I was not happy. My back was hurting. I had a heavy bag, and I thought, I do not want to be here. I do not want to be here. And literally a voice in my head, a strange mind, it said, okay, let me ask you a question. Imagine you're dead, David, dead, as in dead, obliterated, gone, dead. Not, New Age dead, but like dead. and you were given a chance to have a minute of life, would you take it? So do you mean dead as in obliterated, dead, and suddenly when fairy godmother or whatever says you can have a minute of life? Sure, I'll take it. He said, it's a catch. You have to take the minute here. Would you take it? And I thought, yeah, I'd take it. Of course I would. Obliteration to a minute? Sure. And the voice in my head said, would you be complaining? Would you be thinking, God, I have a back to hurt. My olfactory nerves, I can smell sweat. Oh my God. Look at these people, so many of them, so different varieties. The young ones with the glistening mucus, how effective their immune system is, and the dogs yapping, how loyal they are, and how beautiful these humans are. What a beautiful, beautiful moment. And as the second hand swept round, I think I would drink it all in. I think I shouldn't really say it, but I think the two tribes should meet. The happiness folk and the street wisdom folk. We should do something together. We should get these streets humming. We should bring the pilgrimage out from the village into the city. And if you want to know anything more about it, there's my book, Kind People from Pimlico Books, of selling it at the back. And I just want you to point out, and inspired by your bananas earlier on, that there's a smile on the front cover. Find the one every day. Thank you.